Genesis chapter 31. Jacob flees from Laban. 1. Jacob, however, heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob took all that our father had and gathered all his wealth at our father's expense." 2. And Jacob realized that Laban's attitude toward him was no longer the same as before. 3. And the Lord said to Jacob, "Go back to the land of your fathers and your relatives, and I will be with you." 4. Then Jacob sent for Rachel and Leah to come to the field where their flocks were. 5. And he said to them, "I see that your father's attitude toward me is no longer the same, but my father's God has been with me." 6. You know I worked for your father with all the effort. 7. But he's been making a fool of me, changing my salary 10 times. However, God did not allow him to harm me. 8. If he said, "The speckled chicks will be your wages," all the herds spawned speckled chicks. And if he said, "Those that have stripes will be your wages," all the herds spawned pups with stripes. 9. This is how God took his father's flocks and gave them to me. 10. At the time of mating, I had a dream in which I looked and saw that the males that fertilized the herd had stripes, were speckled and spotted. 11. The angel of God said to me in the dream, "Jacob." I said, "Here I am." 12. Then he said, "Look and see that all the males who fertilize the flock have stripes, are speckled and spotted, because I have seen all that Laban has done to him." 13. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a column and made me a vow. Get out of this land now and go back to your homeland. 14. Rachel and Leah said to Jacob, "Do we still have a share in the inheritance of our father's possessions?" 15. Doesn't he treat us as foreigners? Not only did he sell us, but he also spent everything that was paid for by us. 16. All the wealth that God has taken from our father is ours and our children's. Therefore, do all that God has commanded you. 17. Then Jacob helped his sons and their wives ride the camels. 18. And he led all his flock, together with all the goods he had accumulated at Paddan Aram, to go to the land of Canaan, to the house of his father Isaac. 19. While Laban had gone out to shear his sheep, Rachel stole from her father the idols of the clan. 20. This is how Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean by fleeing without telling him anything. 21. He fled with all he had and, crossing the Euphrates, went to the mountains of Gilead. Laban pursues Jacob. 22. 3 days later, Laban was informed that Jacob had fled. 23. Taking with him the men of his family, he pursued Jacob for 7 days and caught up with him in the mountains of Gilead. 24. Then, at night, God came in a dream to Laban the Aramean and warned him, "Beware. Don't say anything to Jacob. Don't make promises or threats to him." 25. Laban reached Jacob, who was encamped in the hills of Gilead. Then Laban and the men encamped there as well. 26. He asked Jacob, "What have you done?" Not only did he deceive me, but he also kidnapped my daughters as if they were prisoners of war. 27. Why did you trick me, running away in secret, without telling me? I would have celebrated his departure with joy and singing, to the sound of tambourines and harps. 28. You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters to say goodbye to them. You were foolish. 29. I have the power to harm them, but last night your father's God warned me. Watch out. Don't say anything to Jacob. Don't make him promises or threats. 30. Now, if you left because you missed your father's house, why did you steal my gods? 31. Jacob replied to Laban, "I was afraid, for I thought you would take your daughters from me by force." 32. As for their gods, whoever is found with them will not stay alive. In the presence of our relatives, see for yourself if anything that belongs to you is here with me, and if it is, take it back." Now, Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. 33. Then Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into the tents of Leah and her 2 handmaids, but found nothing. After leaving Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. 34. Rachel had placed the idols inside the saddle of her camel and was sitting on top. Laban searched the entire tent, but found nothing. 35. Rachel said to her father, "Don't be angry, my lord, that I can't stand up in your presence, for I'm with the flow of women." He searched for the idols, but did not find them. 36. Jacob became angry and complained to Laban, "What was my crime? What sin have I committed so that you will persecute me furiously?" 37. You've scoured everything that belongs to me. Have you found something that belongs to you? So put everything here in front of my relatives and yours, and let them judge between the 2 of us. 38. 20 years I've been with you. His sheep and goats never aborted, and I never ate a single ram of his flock. 39. I never brought you the animals torn apart by beasts. I took the loss myself. And you asked for accounts of every stolen animal day or night. 40. The heat consumed me by day, and the cold by night, and sleep escaped my eyes. 41. It was like that in the 20 years I stayed in his house. I worked for you 14 years in exchange for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks, and 10 times you altered my salary. 42. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the fear of Isaac, were not with me, surely you would dismiss me empty-handed. But God saw my suffering and the work of my hands, and last night he manifested his decision. 43. Laban replied to Jacob, "The women are my daughters, the sons are mine, the flocks are mine. Everything you see is mine. What can I do for these daughters of mine or for the sons born to them?" 44. Let us now make an agreement that will serve as a testimony between the 2 of us. 45. Then Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. 46. And he said to his relatives, "Gather some stones." They picked up rocks and piled them up. Then they ate there, next to the pile of stones. 47. Laban called him Jegar-Sahadutha, and Jacob called him Gilead. 48. Laban said, "This heap of stones is a witness between you and me today." That's why it was called Gilead. 49. He was also called Mizpah, because he declared, "May the Lord watch over you and me when we are separated from one another." 50. If you mistreat my daughters or belittle them by taking other women besides them, even if no one knows, remember that God is a witness between you and me. 51. Laban said to Jacob, "Here are this pile of stones and this pillar that I have placed between you and me." Then Jacob took an oath in the name of the fear of his father, Isaac. 52. They are witnesses that I will not go over to the side there to harm you, nor will you go over to the side of here to harm me. 53. May the God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge among us. 54. He offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called the relatives who were there for a meal. After eating, they spent the night there. 55. The next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them, and then returned to his land.